Let's take a look back in time at amusement parks throughout the years, from the early 1900s all the way to the 1970s. I've always loved amusement parks. My favorite game growing up as a kid was Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, and I still play it all the time. I'm not a big fan of riding roller coasters, but I just love amusement parks in general, and I think a lot of you all do too. So I thought it would be really cool to find some early images and some ones from just a few decades ago. Some of the older images I don't have much history on, so the first few you'll see, I won't be able to tell you a lot of background about the parks, but after that I'll be able to give a lot more background. But these first images were just too cool not to share. This first one is the Carousel in Marysville, Kansas. I learned when researching these images, they used to be called Carry Us All, which makes sense. And has since been shortened to Carousel. So this is T.W. McMahon's Electric Carousel, Marysville, Kansas. Great early image of a carousel. You have the horses there. Nobody riding it, but just really cool. You can see a man in the background, and it looks like in a rural amusement park scene. This is the Ferris wheel and amusement park in Easton, Pennsylvania. And this is a very early primitive image of an amusement park, which is why I chose this one to show in the video. The Ferris wheel there just looks like somebody welded together some metal bars and some chairs and somehow got it set up to turn around, although I don't see how it's powered. Maybe there's like a man on a bicycle behind it that just pedals really hard and turns the Ferris wheel. But you have horses there at the stables, dirt road, really, really cool scene. This is the roller coaster Euclid Beach Amusement Park in Cleveland, Ohio. I believe the original owner of this one said that this was from a manager at the park's collection, and these are employees of the park on the roller coaster posed for the picture. Obviously, it's a posed photo. I don't think they had the cameras back then, where when you're going down the hill, they would take your picture as you were screaming, but just a really cool image of an early roller coaster in Cleveland. This is a carousel in Carson City, Michigan, West Main Street on a holiday. So maybe this is on July 4th or some other big day in Carson City, smaller town in Michigan. And really neat, the dirt road here, so it's pretty early. I don't really see any cars. I do see a lot of horses. But it's just, they just put the carousel right in the middle of the main street. So I thought that was really cool. And this is the carousel in Mount Hope, Kansas. And again, called a Carry Us All back then. All the people here riding the carousel or that were at the park at the time, or maybe the local photographer put out an ad in the paper and said, hey, let's all get together and come down to the amusement park Saturday and I'll take your picture. I'm sure it was a big event back then, but it's a really cool one. Now, these next, all the images I'll be showing you from here on out, I have a little more history about the parks. So this is the Sandy Beach Amusement Park in Fall River, Massachusetts. This area was developed into an amusement park around 1892, and it was pretty prominent. It was actually visited by President Taft in 1911. You can see here a view of the roller coaster in the background and just some houses in the foreground and other parts of the amusement park. And this image here shows the roller coaster and a crowd. I think it might have been taken when President Taft was visiting. I believe a lot of the real photos that we have of the park were produced when President Taft was visiting, which makes sense because it was such a big event. This next one is of Knoebels Amusement Park, or Knoebels Amusement Park in Elysburg, Pennsylvania. And I have actually sold this card several times. The next one I get, I might keep because it's really neat. Chrome postcard, you've got the small Ferris wheel there and everybody watching the Ferris wheel. One thing I've learned about amusement park postcards is even if they're later chrome postcards, they can go for big money. And I'm going to show you some later that have sold for extremely high dollars, but oftentimes these amusement parks change very frequently since rides would get deprecated after just a short time and be replaced. So they're changing constantly, and a lot of them were not open for very long. So that's why they can be very collected and command good money. Now, these next few images are of Fort George Amusement Park, New York City, New York. This park initially opened in 1906, but was very short-lived. So it was known as a nuisance and disliked by residents due to noise pollution and the crime that it brought to the area. And I'm going to show you some images of it here, and it looks really cool. The towering roller coaster, the amusements on the street, the trolley coming through, the Ferris wheel. Here's the pony track in Fort George, New York. I'm not sure exactly what a pony track was back then. Maybe it was like kids would ride small little ponies and race them around a little track. If so, that's pretty cool. And this last one here is a closer up view of the Ferris wheel in Fort George, New York. And the park, so it was known as a nuisance to residents. Somebody actually tried to burn it down on 2 separate occasions. So once in 1911 and once in 1913. After it was burnt down the last time, they didn't rebuild, unfortunately. They decided to call it quits. And nothing remains of the park today except one of the carousels in a shopping mall in West Nyack, New York. The next images I'll show you are of the old Chicago Amusement Park in Bolingbrook, Illinois. This amusement park existed only from 1975 to 1980, and the shopping mall itself lasted an extra year. So it was an indoor amusement park in a shopping mall. They claimed to be the world's first indoor amusement park. There were a few hurdles it wasn't able to overcome. So the shopping center didn't have any anchor stores. Since it was inside, it was really difficult to update or add new rides. And something of a novelty for visitors. So people didn't really come back. They would just come once and then never come back. So like I said, it shut down in 1980, and the mall around it shut down in 1981. And they demolished it just 5 years later in 1986. And you can see here, it looks really interesting. It's kind of like an indoor mall, but just huge and with so many different attractions. So it's really, yeah, it would be a novelty to go to at one time, but just the carnivals inside. And it looks very strange seeing all of this inside, since amusement parks are usually outside. But yeah, again, here's another view of the chair swing indoors at the old Chicago Amusement Park. And this is a great example of continental postcards that can go for hundreds of dollars. When I was researching this, I found several that had sold for $150 and a few others that had sold for substantial amounts of money too. So just because something is a continental card and it's newer does not mean it's not highly collected. These are collected because it was only around for a short time and it's no longer around. So people are looking for these postcards and they're hard to find. These next cards are the World of Sid and Marty Krofft in Atlanta, Georgia. I believe this was an amusement park based on, or at least centered around, a TV show. And again, this one was around for a very short time. It opened in 1976 and closed just 6 months later. This was another indoor amusement park, and I don't know what was going on in the mid-1970s where they thought these were such good ideas, but they were obviously not with how short they lasted. But this one, I love how this one looks and the colors and style of all the art and everything there. When I looked it up, it said the poor attendance was due to how expensive it was to get in and a lack of attraction. So people weren't really getting a good value for their money. And it's now the CNN Center in Atlanta, Georgia. But those postcards can also go for big bucks. So again, newer postcards, larger size than normal postcards. I think these were even slightly larger than normal continental, but just because it's newer and bigger does not mean that it can't go for good money. But the last one I'm going to show you here is Toonerville Ocean Park Pier, Santa Monica, California. So Ocean Park Pier opened in 1925, and the Toonerville Funhouse was one of the big attractions. And I just thought this one was so neat because it looks like a Looney Tunes thing or something like that out of a cartoon. And this postcard is probably from around the mid-1920s, around when the park opened. And Hicks Stables you got there, no smoking sign, which is interesting. And then the 10-cent admission. And I also have a later image of this one, I think after it was partially demolished. So you can see there, it was rebuilt into a new attraction, I believe. But that's all the images I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you'd like more Then and Now content like this, or what old images you'd like to see. And thank you so much for watching.